guys, Robert with MudBusters here. Today we're going to be putting fender flares on our RMAX 1000 that has the Yamaha OEM fender extensions installed. We're going to start with the front today. First step is to remove these two bolts from your OEM extension and set them aside because you will be using them again. You take your MudBuster flare and you align the two bend locations with the two bends that are in the fender and align the holes where you just removed the bolts from. Put them back through your MudBuster, through your factory flare, and back into the factory locations. And this may be a little bit difficult because you are going through several layers of plastic. You've got your factory fender, you've got your OEM flare, and your MudBuster flare. So aligning these might be a little bit tricky. Your next step, to make it easy on yourself, take a spring clamp like this, align the inside edge of the front fender, pull it into the bend, and clamp it in place. That'll help you keep everything aligned as you go forward. Next, you're going to grab your drill bit. It's a 21/64 bit, and start at the bottom. Drill your first hole and insert one of the rivets that came with your kit. And then move up and continue on until you're all the way to the front. You'll want to stop and check periodically to make sure that the front remains aligned as you install the rear, because things do tend to move. And when you get toward the front, you'll notice the top of your fender is closer to your flare than what we've been dealing with so far. So you want to be careful not to drill through the top of that fender flare. Get close to the front, you can remove the clamp and get it out of the way and keep on drilling. When you get to the very front, there's not enough height to drill through that thing. And we were worried that if we put a rivet that close to the front, you would drill through the top of that flare. So in the front of your kit, we have one small self-tapping screw. There's a hole located in your MudBuster for it. Locate that hole, and drive that screw in. Do not over tighten. And there is your front flare installed and ready to go. Now we'll tackle the rear. All right guys, Robert here, back with you to work on the rear of this machine. You may notice that the holes are already drilled. That's because we had some microphone trouble. Sorry about that, but we'll still walk through it. First thing we want to do is raise up the bed so you can get access to this stuff, especially if you're on the ground. You've got two pieces of factory hardware, these two bolts. We'll need to take those out. Pay attention here because the front bolt is shouldered and the rear bolt is not. And it will make installation a lot easier if you put the hardware back in the right spots. You'll place your MudBuster against the inside of your fender, press it all the way in, and put this bolt first back in position, the non-shouldered bolt. That'll kind of hold everything in place for you. You come up front, align this hole, and reinstall this bolt. Now, this one is a little bit more tricky because there's several layers here to work with. You've got your factory fender, MudBuster, and you're trying to hit a threaded hole in a bracket. But with a little patience, you can get her in there. And retighten that. And we've got two different sets of rivets that we're going to use in here. We've got the standard set that we used on the front. It'll go on the inside in 3 locations. And then a longer rivet that'll go along the 6 holes on the outside because of the extra layers of plastic you're going to have to go through. Here we're going through the MudBuster, the OEM flare, and the factory fender. We'll start with the 3 inner locations. Drill this hole, 21/64 drill bit again, and install that rivet, first rivet. Drill the second hole, and install that second rivet. You'll drill the third hole, and install the third and final of the short rivets. Then you move on to the outer row, where we're going to put in our longer rivets. Start at the back again and work your way forward. This hole and install a rivet. This hole, install a rivet. This hole, install a rivet. And so on until we get them all done. Then you'll notice we have one more rivet back here. I'm going to show you that one here in just a few minutes. The last item that we need to address is one rear rivet. I brought the machine down on the lift so we can look at it straight across the top of that flare. Now you'll notice that once you get it installed, this back panel can move quite a bit. So what we're going to want to do to install that is we want to make sure that it's aligned across the top and across the side. When you find the spot that you like for your flare, hold it in place. If you go too deep here, you could damage that brake light, so be very careful. And once you get your hole drilled, install rivet, and you're good to go. Now we're going to take a look at the lower fender. First thing you're going to need to do is to remove these two bolts and these two rivets. The rivets you can set aside, we won't be using them again, but the hardware, the bolts, we will. You take your lower flare, and you notice that there are 4 slotted holes in your lower flare. We're going to use those in those 4 locations we just took hardware out of. So start with the lower bolts, the lower flare bolts that is, and reinstall them into factory holes. Take a couple of rivets from your kit, reinstall those into the factory holes as well. Now this gives us an opportunity to align the panel. Align this upper edge to the outer, or this upper outer edge to the upper outer edge of the upper fender. And once that's aligned, you tighten those screws down and push in those rivets if you haven't already. That leaves us with 3 holes to drill. Start at the bottom, work your way up. Drill a hole, insert a rivet. Next hole. If you have trouble pushing these rivets in, you can grab a screwdriver handle and push on those things, and it makes it a whole lot easier. Last hole. Drill. Insert a rivet. And there you go. You're ready to go.